This is going to be my first video on YouTube, just talking straight to the camera. Hopefully it doesn't turn out just to be like a tangent. It might though. I really want to talk about grief and dealing with grief and losing someone close to you. Why I'm making this video is mostly because when my mom died, it really helped me to go on YouTube or just like Google stuff and watch TED Talks and all that to help understand what I was experiencing. And hearing other people's experiences with grief and losing their parents or someone close to them, that just, gave me a greater understanding of what was going on. Hopefully some part of this video will resonate with you. I just hope that this can help you maybe feel less alone and gives you a sense of understanding of what you're experiencing. I'm hesitant for myself to say that anything helped, because personally, again, just saying from my own experience, nothing anyone did helped me feel better. I would say more so that certain things they let me grieve and they let me figure out how to grieve in a way that was best for me at the time. And I also want to say too, if anything I say in this video doesn't really resonate with you and you're kind of thinking, that doesn't apply to me, like that's just not how I feel at all, that's totally okay. That's totally valid. Feel free to click out of this video if it's just not really helping you and if it's not what you really need right now. And I want to say that while I want to be vulnerable with this because I think that will help other people understand what they're experiencing, I'm not going to share everything. Obviously, there's a lot of details I'm going to leave out, but hopefully I share some of the main things that I think could help, support you in your grief. So I want to give you context for my loss. My mom passed away December 26, 2020. This was from stage 4 uterine cancer. She had only gotten that diagnosis officially, I think it was 10 days prior to actually dying. So it was a huge shock for all of us, and there's a lot there as well. None of us really knew the urgency of it until 10 days before she died when she got that diagnosis. So she'd been going from doctor to doctor, not really getting the help, the attention that she needed. At one point, I think they even told her like, oh, it's not cancer because of this other reason. Anyway, they thought it was something else. Finally, it was around when I came back from school, actually. And luckily, I was on the quarter system, so school kind of went on to winter break right before Thanksgiving, which I'm really grateful for. I got to spend some time with her that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it was about a week or 2 weeks into that where she had to go to the urgent care or the emergency room because I think she was just in so much pain. It was very fast paced. And then from there, it just progressed, got worse. And on December 24th, she went in to get her lungs drained of fluid at the hospital. And when she came out of that procedure, I think they said she had a pulmonary embolism, and then she went into cardiac arrest after that. And that's when we got the call from my uncle, who was thankfully there with her. And because it was COVID, only one person could really be in there with her at a time anyway. So really grateful for my family for helping out with her and helping her with the hospital. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I could just ramble about this for so long. I really hope this isn't a tangent, and I could talk about this forever. Okay, so we got the call that she went into cardiac arrest. They were trying to revive her, I think, for like over half an hour, which if you know, like that's not good. I think then she was in the ICU, obviously not responsive. And so we saw her. And I think that whole day, I'm not even sure what I was thinking, but I think it was just very shocking to me at the time. I didn't really know what to think. Like when we got the call that she had gone into cardiac arrest, we had just gotten off a Zoom call with our family, like talking about Christmas and stuff. So it is a very strange thing to have it all happen so fast. So I also want to add, leading up to all of this, none of us were aware of how bad it was. My mom, I don't think she really knew either until she got that diagnosis. Of course, I don't know what she was thinking. I don't know everything, but I think when it's happening in front of you, it's just really hard to understand. So all in all, that's just for me to say, everything happened really fast. I think I was more stressed than I realized when I look at my journal and my notes from around that time. We're all just very like almost walking on eggshells. You never want to say what you're dreading of like, is it this bad or this. We went to see her in the ICU on the 24th. And then on the 25th, I think I don't really remember actually what we did on Christmas Day. I think my sister went to go visit her because, again, you could only have one person going to the hospital because it was COVID. So she was there, and I remember specifically my sister was FaceTiming my dad. We were at our dad's house, doing a FaceTime like with my mom in the background, and obviously my mom's like hooked up to all of this like ICU medical stuff, not responsive still. And I just remember like I'm sitting in a different room and I see that, and I think that is when it hit me. And before that, obviously I knew it was bad, but I think it was still processing how bad. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's bad. And I think I had this thought, and this is why it was so hard at that moment, where I was like, one, she has stage 4 uterine cancer. 2, if she were to wake up after being in this state, she'd probably be in so much pain. She would be able to know that she was going to die, and I didn't want her to know that. And so it was very conflicting. That was just one of the many things that going through my head at the time, was just like, I really want her to wake up, 1, because I want to talk to her again, but 2, I don't want her to wake up because she's going to be in so much pain and she's going to know that she's dying. So that was a terrible day. Then the next day, on the 26th, we went into the hospital it was me, my sister, my dad, and my uncle. And that's when the doctors were talking to us about like taking her off of her, just, letting her die. And I think I wrote out like this whole note, this huge like essay basically that I was reading to my mom as she was, who knows if she even heard me. Probably didn't. I don't know. It was more so, I think, probably for myself. But I was just reading all this stuff I wanted to say to her. They unplugged a lot of stuff. And that was, it took a while after they unplugged her. But I remember the sun was going down outside. And it was like, it was a pretty sunset. And we left. We just, eventually we left. And it felt really bizarre, really weird walking out of her room in the ICU, just knowing her body was there. She was not. And then she would go sit in a morgue for like, I don't know how long before getting cremated. Just all of these thoughts that I never really thought I was going to have ever, even though I knew, and even though we all know someone we love is going to die someday. Me, my dad, and my sister, we stopped somewhere really random. Honestly, I think it was probably just like a parking lot somewhere. And we watched the sunset, I think. I think that's what happened. I'm not sure. I think it was, though. And I just remember seeing the sunset and being like, oh my God, it's so pretty. Like, this is a sign from my mom, which we'll get into that later as well. But yeah, just a very weird feeling that day and just overwhelming. And then we went home. We went to my mom's house where I had been staying for a lot of COVID. Obviously, we were just like sobbing. My dad made some like frozen chicken. And I just remember the 3 of us sitting at the dinner table, and I was like trying to eat the chicken, but like I was just crying so much I couldn't eat. So that really encapsulates kind of the during of my mom actually dying and those feelings. Now we're going to get into the after. Well, I guess this was kind of after she died as well, but you know what I mean. So yeah, this was winter break still. And I was just like, I cried. I think I cried every single day for probably the next 3 months. But especially in those first few days and weeks. And I just remember like crying myself to sleep, crying when I woke up. I was not hungry. I was fully just not hungry. I didn't want to eat anything. That was a really big thing, was actually, I didn't realize this and I never asked for it either, but I'm so grateful that I had people around me that knew to bring food when you lose someone. I didn't know that would be a thing I even like would need. But it was really helpful. People brought food. Even before my mom died, when they were getting the news that it was not good, they were bringing by food and things like that. Yeah, before she died, I thought it was really weird. I was like, why are you bringing me gifts? And then after she died, I'm like, all right, I get it. Like, the food people would bring and drop off, super helpful, because there's no way in hell that I was going to have the energy to cook myself something, or the desire to cook anything or even order anything. I just wasn't thinking about that. Every day, like, I think I described it to somebody where it was like, I felt like I was on drugs almost. Like, it was just I felt like my world before my mom died was like, like a nice snow globe. I don't know if that's a good comparison. And then when she died, like shattered. But then also, you know, then I just felt like I was just in actual reality. Like I felt like I was experiencing a lot for the first time. Like every feeling I had and everything I was looking at and experiencing was just so magnified, especially in those first few days and weeks after she died. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I haven't really read enough about like brain chemistry and like neuroscience to know exactly what was going on, but I can bet, I almost guarantee like there was just a lot going on, just emotions and just different things going. Anyway, so some things I would do, like I obviously told my friends, obviously crying every day and just feeling like shit and just like beside myself and missing my mom like crazy and feeling lots of regret as well, just as far as things I didn't get to say to her, things we didn't get to do, things I wish I did differently. Things I did, really big thing, hang out with my dog a lot, walked around places that my mom would walk him, cried a lot, looked at pictures of my mom, looked at old videos with my mom, really tried to find a lot of any memory I could of her and preserve it. Oh, when she died, in those next few days, I made a Google Doc and I made bullet points of every single moment, either special or just normal moments with my mom that I can remember. This was like a long, long list of things that just kind of felt natural to me. I also remember filling up my notes app with every single thought I was having every single day. And the interesting thing about that Google Doc is that I've never read it again. And I think just knowing that it's there is really helpful. I was also feeling very much like this was some kind of joke. This was like a prank. This couldn't be like, and I do remember, now it's all coming back to me. The best way I can describe how I felt in those very early days was that every day I woke up, it was a nightmare. You know, not just waking up and like dreading the day or like having a bad day. Genuinely felt like when you have a nightmare and then you wake up from it and you're like, you kind of take a couple seconds to recuperate and you're like, okay, that was a nightmare. It was like that, but you don't wake up from it. Like that nightmare was just my life. I had very supportive friends and family, and there's a lot to be grateful for in that time. And still, I felt like I was in a nightmare. Another thing is my school, I think, had an option either to go back. Oh, wait, no, I think we were still online. So that meant I could stay in St. Louis rather than flying back to Denver for my classes. And that is something that I am so grateful for, because I remember the first day of class back from winter break, sometime early January, mid-January, something like that. I remember sitting on my computer in the Zoom class, and we didn't have to have our cameras on. And I just remember they were like, okay, time to look at the syllabus. And I pull out the syllabus. I kid you not, I cannot read the syllabus. Like the words are not even making sense to me. And then I just have a breakdown. And I think I like went to talk to my dad or something. And I was like, I can't read it. Like I just can't do it. Again, something that I just didn't see coming. And that was really weird for me because I've always been a very high achiever in school. And so feeling like I wasn't going to be able to do well in school was like really, that was just another challenge on top of it. Just like, oh no, my academics are going to go in the crapper. I also want to say, so when I finally went back to school, this was a couple months later. I think this was for spring quarter. It must have been like in April or something. I'm not sure. But I sat down with my 3 closest friends in college. I was like, hey guys, like it would really help me if we all sat down and I could just tell you exactly what happened. Everything that happened with my mom, everything about what's going on with me, and like where I am at in this state. And luckily they all sat and listened. And I think I just cried at some point and they were just listening. And that really helped me because I think in a lot of that, I just explained like if I ever lash out at any of you guys or if I'm like isolating myself and crying all day, it's not anything you've done. I just wanted them to understand what was going on. I also, a really big thing too, during that conversation with them, I think I told them like, if you ever have any questions about it or like what I'm going through or whatever, for whatever reason, please feel free to ask. Nothing is taboo. I don't want to make you feel like you can't ask me something or talk to me about something. Everyone's different in how they deal with grief. For me, I was such an open book. Like I was just ready to talk about pretty much anything to anyone. I went on a lot of walks with different parents of like my friends from grade school. And I think I like talked to teachers, professors, lots of random people I just talked to. I think a lot of my like social anxiety went away during that time too, because I had just, my world just completely exploded, and I just kind of had my priorities all straightened out pretty much. I was just like, this matters, this doesn't matter. This matters, it doesn't matter. I just kind of said whatever I thought. I didn't care about certain things, and then I cared a lot about other things. So anyway, you kind of, you figure out your priorities at the time. Yeah, I talked to a lot of people about a lot of different things. I'm all over the place, aren't I, today? A really big thing was being grateful. I found for myself that having this greater sense of gratitude, and I think a lot of that came from also feeling regret, and then I didn't express a lot to my mom, and I didn't do all this stuff with my mom. So I was kind of in this mentality of like fuck it. No reason to have shame about anything. No reason to be embarrassed about anything. I just want to be grateful, and I want to express my gratitude towards people. Even long term, I think this experience has made me much more grateful. Obviously, you don't know what you have until it's gone. I was very, very set on expressing to every single person I could think of that I was grateful for them or like an experience with them. I texted so many people. I texted people that I wasn't even really friends with. People who were more of acquaintances. I'm sure some people thought it was really fucking weird to get a text from me like, I'm so grateful for that one time that you helped me with this one thing, when like I hadn't talked to them in months at school, or I barely even knew them, hardly. But it helped me. I emailed people too. I emailed old teachers. I think I like hung out with some really random people too. And yeah, in retrospect, that was a little weird. But again, I'm very grateful that they were also receptive and that they were willing to like talk to me about stuff. Okay, now we've done the gratitude part. What else? Now I want to get into things that I did that let me grieve in a way that was just, helpful to my own understanding of what was going on. Main thing I want to mention is a grief therapist. I had never gone to therapy before this. I always thought about it. Probably should have been in therapy for other reasons. This was my first time going to therapy. This was my dad's financial advisor's therapist, I think. So I started out going to grief therapy. I think it was once a week. And honestly, after every 1 hour session, I just wanted to keep talking to her. I had so many things I was talking about and wanted to talk about. And a lot of those early sessions were really just me rambling. Very similar to how I am now, actually. And maybe that's a sign I should go back to therapy. But, sidebar, I would just ramble to her. And she taught me a lot of really good tools. And I want to share one. Maybe I should share this at the end, just for the sake of being organized. But I'll share it now, too. She helped me so much, even outside of grief as well. But a really, really key thing was switching the thinking from but to and. So instead of all these but statements, just put an and in there. And that really helped me kind of not negate any of the thinking or the feelings I was having. Oh, I had such a good time today with my friends, but I miss my mom a lot. I'm super sad and she's gone. Instead of saying but, my therapist suggested, what if I try to say and? And then it becomes, I had a really great day today and I so miss my mom and, she's gone and I feel like shit. It really, really helped me just reframe a lot of my thinking, and it let me sit with all my feelings. That tip has helped me in a lot of other ways as well. And so I think in terms of that a lot of the time, and I think it's very true. I think that's kind of just like the world and reality. There's a lot of things that are true at once. Another thing I did, I watched a lot of YouTubes, hence why I'm making this. A lot of just different creators talking about their experiences with grief. I think I watched like the Dolan twins talking about their dad. A lot of TED Talks. I'm going to link all of them. I actually have a list. Also listened to, I think it was an Andrew Huberman. It was Huberman Lab, the podcast. And he had one on grief. I'll link that in there as well. It was a TED Talk called We Don't Move On From Grief. We Move Forward With It. There's also this show called Midnight Gospel. Don't really know even how I found it. But this guy, basically, he had a conversation with his mom who was dying. And he animated it. He had recorded this conversation and then they did an animation and it was a whole episode. Oh my gosh. That was probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. All of these things where I was learning that, wow, this is an experience a lot of other people have had. And, the questions he asked his mom or the things he talks about with his mom in this show are things that I also wanted to talk to my mom about, or thoughts that I had. And it just made me feel less alone. I also watched Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I really just watched it because I was like, I heard it was a good movie. Aside from it just being an amazing movie, there's this scene at the end where Michelle Yeoh's character is talking to her daughter and she's just saying like, in all the different universes, like I'd always want to be here with you or something like that. I remember sobbing. I think I watched this by myself because it was like too long. Like my family didn't really want to watch it with me. And I was like crying so much. It really resonated with me at the time. And I walked away from that movie being like, oh my God, like everyone needs to watch this. This is like absolutely mind blowing, like how relevant this is to me. And anyway, okay. Another thing I watched was WandaVision on Disney Plus. There was this quote in WandaVision, and it was, what is grief if not love persevering? I also watched Surviving Death. Now, this was a little different for me. Surviving Death is kind of, I think it's about people talking about their near-death experiences or things like that. Some of the episodes I didn't really connect with. I was like, oh, that's too much for me. Like, that's just not clicking with me. And then some of them I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Having the possibility of seeing my mom again was super helpful. And honestly, to this day, again, I wouldn't consider myself spiritual or religious. However, honestly, for me, it just helps me stay sane. Some days I'm like, oh, my mom, I'm never going to see her again. And she's gone. And I know that. And like science and everything. And then there's other days where I'm like, yeah, I got to see her again. Like when I die, I'll see her again. And if it brings me comfort to think I'm going to see her again, even if every logical bit of my brain is like, you're not gonna. If that brings me comfort just to tell myself I'm going to, then I'm going to tell myself that. Because damn, I miss my mom. And that's okay. I think I was either watching something or listening to a podcast or reading something. I saw it somewhere where it was explaining that when someone dies, your brain is trying to figure out, one, where they are physically, because that's how we think of people, like where they are, where their location is. Another thing is you're trying to think of, in terms of time, where they are, just like, you know, when's the last time you saw them, when you're going to see them again. I think that's what they meant. Anyway, that's what I understood it to be. And then the third thing I think was thinking in terms of how close they were to you. And I'll try to link wherever I saw this if I can find it afterwards. Just having this understanding of even, you know, people who are alive. These are some ways that we kind of orient ourselves and we relate to people and how, you know, where people are and who they are. And then in turn, you know, who we are because of that and our connections with them. Just understanding that, that's something that really helped me understand what I was feeling. As time passed, I cried less. I wouldn't really say I went back to normal, but I had adjusted to things. And by the time summer came around, I was like, I'm ready to party. Like, I'm ready to go live life again. I think I went to LA with a friend of mine for a weekend, very spontaneous. I got to go study abroad. And oh my goodness, this 2020 fall quarter was when we were supposed to go abroad, but then COVID happened, so we didn't. Blessing in disguise, because I wouldn't have been home with my mom when she died, and that would have been absolutely horrible. So when I went abroad in the fall of 2021, I went to Prague. Best 3 months of my life, easily. I've had a lot of good months in my life, but these were the best 3 consecutive, solid, at the same level of awesomeness every single 3 months of my life. And again, I think just having that heightened sense after losing my mom, this heightened sense of I have to just do stuff and like, why would I not do this? Why would I not do this? Why would I not just book a flight this weekend to Norway to visit my cousin? Like, I couldn't think of a reason to not do things. It was such a great time. I was so sad that I didn't have my mom to talk to about having such a great time. And I was so grateful. Every single thing that happened, I was like, I cannot believe I get to be in Europe, traveling wherever I want, whenever I want, doing all this stuff, seeing all this stuff. Once you die, you can't do any of that. And if something is holding me back from doing something as silly as embarrassment or, trying to think like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should wait. I'm very much a believer that if you have the means to do something, do it. Because you don't know. Tomorrow you might die. Or like you might sprain your ankle and then you can't do that thing. Or, something could happen. So if you can do it now, do it now. As long as it's not hurting anyone, it's not hurting your bank account too much, and you're having a good time, you should do it. Oh God, it was such a good time. And I was so grateful for everyone I met during that time. All of my friends I got to see and like hang out with in Spain for the weekends I was there. But best 3 months of my life. You know what? I should just make a video about study abroad where I talk about study abroad. My last 2 quarters in college, I graduate, and then I go backpacking. Why did I go backpacking? Well, mostly because, again, I'm super grateful I was able to do this. Mostly because I could. Like I said, I'm so grateful for my ability to travel because it is fucking expensive and time consuming. Backpacked for honestly like a year and a half because, well, 3 of those months were actual backpacking. And then like a little bit more than a year, I just spent living in Australia, really. Fast forward to the last 2 years, maybe 1 year, and now. So I think I pretty much every day think about my mom at some point, in some way. I miss her every day. Those feelings, all those feelings I had right off the bat, they are not as intense anymore as regularly. That was a big thing I was concerned about, was like, I don't want to feel like shit every day for the rest of my life, but also like, I don't want to forget my mom, and I don't want to forget how much I loved her and how bad this hurts right now. I don't really think you can forget. A lot of people compare it to like grief and losing that person, and then your life just starts building up around it, and there's more and more stuff. They also say grief comes in waves. I think that's definitely true, and it was very true for me. There's some days I think, every so often I will just break down. Your life fills up with stuff again. I will say the one thing that really, really does suck about more time passing is just feeling that distance from that person and feeling that you only have that person existing in your head and in like the pictures on your phone or the videos on your computer or the texts that you might have saved. That sucks. And that sucks. Yeah, that just sucks. That's the only place they are. And then physically, obviously, like she's been cremated and she's like in a little like urn, but that doesn't really count because like, anyway, every sense of her that I feel connected to is in my head now and is in my pictures on my phone. Like that's crazy to me. And that makes me really fucking depressed that I'm never going to see her again unless there's an afterlife, which would be really nice. So, okay, where did I go? It gets better, I guess, as time goes on. You miss them. And yeah, with more time comes more distance from that person. And that sucks. It sucks. Honestly, I think I've learned to compartmentalize a lot of it. And I think I had to do that to honestly stay sane. If I felt all of those feelings and emotions every single day for the rest of my life, I would feel so exhausted. I would not get any sleep and I would not be able to live my life. It took me time to get to a place where I felt like I was able to put all these feelings and sad thoughts about my mom almost on the back burner, even for just like a couple hours, and then pull it back out later and cry about it. It just took me a long time to get there. Not saying you need to get there, but it just took me a while. I just think in terms of, I am just so grateful for so much. It's interesting. I also feel like I have, in some ways, a lower tolerance for bullshit, but then I also have a higher tolerance at the same time because like I want to be compassionate towards people and I want to be empathetic. So it's a very like interesting dynamic there. I'm so grateful for what I have, who I have in my life, and obviously some days are really annoying and like stuff pisses me off. But I think I kind of acknowledge at the end of the day, all that stuff is silly. A lot of it is silly. Another thing I now live with is almost every single thing I do in my life is a bit. I kind of realize, at least for myself, that there is no meaning of life. Life is just what it is. Like at the end of the day, for me, it's very much like there is no meaning of life for myself. There is no greater universal meaning to life. There's not a reason that I am here. Besides the fact that I was birthed by somebody. That's why I'm here. However, I don't want that to be negative. For me, that's a positive thing. For me, that means I can make life whatever I want it to be. It's like my own little simulator. It's like I'm playing Sims, but it's my life. For myself, again, having that thought of there is no actual inherent meaning to life besides the fact that I was just created and that was just chance that I specifically was born. For me, that thought is very freeing. For you, it might be different and that might bring you a sense of existential dread. And if you don't like that thinking, just ignore that I said it. Skip this part. Don't listen to me. Honestly, for me right now, this will probably change because it always does. I just want to have fun and experience stuff. I think pretty much, yeah, that's kind of it. I want to end with some tools that I have learned either from my therapist or from YouTube videos or just things or from my experience that have been useful to me. So one, I think I mentioned it, switching from but to and statements. That really helped me. Second thing that I have felt to be true for me is there is no timeline for grief. I think having this mentality really helped me not feel rushed in getting over it or trying to fix myself and trying to get back to normal. I think it was very, very helpful for me to talk to my friends and kind of sit down and tell them everything that happened, so they knew that to hopefully just not take things personally, that I was never trying to come after them for things and that I was just super sensitive about stuff. Oh, I would say another thing, if you're a friend of someone who lost someone, that if they don't respond to your text, it's just because it's like they're so exhausted. Please don't take it personally. Unless you have like personal beef with that person, like maybe then that is personal. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I really hope that some parts of this resonated with you. Let me know in the comments or message me. Actually, I don't know if you can do that on YouTube, but maybe comment or maybe like message me on Instagram. I don't know. Feel free to share your experience with grief in the comments. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about on here, either about grief or just about anything or life or just whatever. And I hope this video just contributes to that, creating that space where we can talk about grief and feel less alone. I found these videos helpful when I was grieving in those early days. So hope this was helpful for you.